So their lives rolled on until a public holiday was announced. The whole country was to celebrate the 10th birthday of Queen Victoria's eldest son, Prince Edward. For some time, nothing was done in Casterbridge. Then one day, Donald Farfrae asked Henchard if he might borrow some canvas sheets as a shelter for an entertainment that he and a few others were organizing for the day. Take as many as you like, Henchard replied. Just after this, Henchard realized that as mayor, he definitely should have called a meeting of the council to arrange some entertainments. But Farfrae had been too quick, and the official authorities had been quite left behind. However, it was not too late, and on second thoughts, Henchard decided he would organize something himself. He set about his preparations for a really brilliant thing, which would be worthy of ancient Casterbridge. As for Farfrae's little affair, Henchard nearly forgot about it. Everybody was delighted with the mayor's plan for the holiday, especially when it became known that he meant to pay for everything himself. He advertised in a long pink colored posters that games and amusements of all kinds would take place in a field on the outskirts of the town. There was to be an obstacle race with a whole pig as the prize, and many other sports such as donkey races, boxing, wrestling, and climbing competitions. Henchard was also going to provide an enormous tea. Everyone who lived in Casterbridge was invited. The morning came. The sky, which had been unusually clear up to a day or two before, was grey. The wind had an unmistakable hint of rain in it. At 12 o'clock, the rain began to fall, small and steady, but getting heavier and heavier by the minute. A number of people had bravely gathered in the field, but by 3 o'clock, Henchard realized that his entertainments would be a failure. Rain water dripped everywhere. The pig shivered in the wind. There was no covering for the tables, which were loaded with food, and nothing could be done to stop everything getting thoroughly wet. Little by little, the people began to leave. The bad weather and the waste disheartened them. But towards 6, the storm was over. It seemed possible to carry on after all. The tables were straightened. The band was called out from where it had taken shelter. A space was cleared for dancing. But where are the people? Said Henchard after about half an hour, during which time only 2 men and a woman had stood up to dance. They have gone to Farfrae's entertainment, answered a councilman who stood in the field with the mayor. Henchard walked away moodily. He gave orders to stop everything and close down. The food was to be given to the poor. In a short time, the field was empty. Donald Farfrae's entertainments, however, were a great success. That evening, Henchard went to see what was happening and found the whole town there. People were dancing to the sound of a string band and clearly enjoying themselves. Henchard stood in the shadows and he heard many people talking about himself and Farfrae. All praised Farfrae for the success of the dance and also for his ability and good business sense. Mr. Henchard's amusements couldn't say good morning to this, said one. The man must have been mad to think people would go up there on a day like this. Another asked, where would Henchard's business be if it were not for this young fellow? He is lucky to have Farfrey. His accounts were in a terrible mess before Farfrey came. But Farfrey won't stay with him. He'll want to start up for himself soon. Hanchard overheard all this with rising anger. Mr. Farfrey's time as my manager is drawing to a close, he said when one of the town men came and spoke to him. The young Scotsman overheard this remark and sensing Henchard's displeasure quietly agreed when people asked if it were true. When they asked him why, he simply replied that Mr. Henchard no longer required his help. Satisfied, Henchard went home. But in the morning, when his jealous temper had passed away, his heart sank within him at what he had said. He was even more upset when he found that Farfrey was determined to take him at his word. Elizabeth Jane danced with Donald Farfrey a number of times, but she later realized from Henchard's manner that she had made a mistake. She decided to return home. On the way out, she bumped into Farfrey. Ah, it's you, Miss Newson. I have been looking for you everywhere, he said, trying hard not to think of the sadness that had fallen on him because of his break with the corn merchant. May I walk with you as far as your street corner? She thought this might not be quite right, but could not think of a sensible reason to say no. So off they went, until Farfrey said, it seems that I am going to leave you soon. Why? She asked, wondering what he could mean. Oh, it's a matter of business, nothing more. I hope to have another dance with you. I am afraid I have upset your father with this affair, and now perhaps I'll have to go to another part of the world altogether. Elizabeth Jean sighed with unhappiness, and the Scotsman went on. I wish I were richer, Miss Newson, and your stepfather had not been upset. I would have asked you something tonight, but that's not for me. Ah, well, I hope you Casterbridge people will not forget me if I go. I'm sure we won't, Elizabeth Jane said breathlessly. I wish you wouldn't go at all. Soon everyone knew that Farfrey and Henchard had decided to part. Elizabeth Jane became very anxious about whether Donald would really go away. She recognized that he very much wanted him to stay. At length, the news reached her that he was not leaving Casterbridge. Farfrey was going to start up a corn and hay business by himself. Her heart leaped when she heard this. But would a man who really cared for her have set up a business in competition with her own stepfather? Surely not. It must have been a passing moment that had made him talk to her so softly. One day, Hanchett called Elizabeth Jane to him. Seeing how he looked when she entered his study, she felt quite alarmed. I want to warn you, my dear. It's about that man Farfrey. I have seen him talking to you 2 or 3 times. He danced with you once and brought you home, I think. Now, now, I don't blame you for anything. But have you made him any foolish promises? No, I have promised him nothing. Good. All's well that ends well. Then I particularly wish you not to see him again. Very well, sir. You promise? She hesitated for a moment and then said, Yes, if you wish it so much. I do. He is an enemy to our house. When she had gone, he sat down and wrote a note to Farfrae asking him not to see Elizabeth Jane any more. From that day, the Scotsman's business grew and grew, but Henchard got worse. Donald Farfrae's name was seldom mentioned in Henchard's house. Not long after this, Henchard received a letter from Lucetta, the woman he had known in Jersey. She said that she realized that she could not expect anything from him now that he had remarried. She did not blame him. The only thing to do was to think of it as her misfortune rather than his fault. She asked him to keep their relationship a secret and to return anything of hers that he had, particularly the letters. Her letter finished. I am now on my way to Bath to see my only relative. She is rich, and I hope she will do something for me. I shall return through Casterbridge. Can you meet me with the letters? I shall be in the coach which changes horses at the Antelope Hotel at 5:30 on Wednesday evening. I would prefer this plan rather than you sending them to me. I remain still yours ever, Lucetta. Hanchard breathed heavily. Poor thing. Better you had never known me. If I were ever left in a position to marry you, I would. Indeed, I would. He was, of course, thinking about what he might do if Susan died. As requested, he gathered together Lucetta's letters and put the parcel aside until the day she had appointed. The Wednesday evening was cold and the coach was late. Henchard crossed over to it when it arrived. He could see no sign of Lucetta, deciding that something must have happened to make her change her plans. He gave the matters up, went home, and put the parcel of letters away in his safe. He felt relieved that he had not seen her after all.